It's been a sad day and a half in Pittsburgh. Yesterday, the Cleveland Browns traded quarterback Baker Mayfield to the Carolina Panthers. And you may be asking, why is that sad? Well, it's because everything fit, everything made sense. It just worked. I'll explain. Baker Mayfield was never good against the Steelers. Had a 2-5 record against us in the regular season, and those two wins came against Mason Rudolph. Had a 56% completion rate, 9 touchdowns and 6 picks, and had a 76.3 QB rating all when facing Pittsburgh. So essentially, when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback for the Browns, that helped the Pittsburgh Steelers. Why would we want that to end? And don't bring up the 2020 AFC wildcard game as an example of Baker beating the Steelers. Because no, that was about the Steelers beating themselves. We literally spotted them 7 points on the first snap when Pouncey hiked the ball way over Ben's head into the back of the end zone. There was that. There was also Ben gifting the Browns some interceptions early on in the game. And also our defensive line was non-existent when stopping Cleveland's run. So that was less about Baker. I get it. He played a clean game. He had fine stats. But it wasn't about Baker. It was about the Steelers beating themselves. I digress. And continuing our conversation about being a perfect match, it was good for the Steelers, but also the Browns and Baker. They were good for each other. They were the perfect match. Both dysfunctional, both having little man or little dog syndrome, and both couldn't really get out of their own way, with it all culminating with the Browns wanting or being interested in Deshaun Watson this offseason after telling Baker that he was their quarterback going forward. So when Baker heard that the Browns were interested in Deshaun Watson, he was done. He said, I'm out of here in Cleveland. I'm moving on. Sayonara. And then what's funny is shortly after that, Deshaun Watson said, I'm no longer interested in Cleveland, or at least that's what the reports were. Narrowed his two teams down to the Falcons and the Saints. Now everyone's wondering, how are the Browns going to make amends here? Because they just abandoned their one quarterback that provided at least some stability to the franchise over these past 20 or 30 years. How are they going to do it? Are they going to come crawling back to Baker? Are they going to end up trading him? It was just a complete mess. But then a huge curveball is thrown when Deshaun Watson decides, actually, yeah, I want to play for the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns trade for Deshaun Watson, and Baker Mayfield is still on the roster. He's still under contract. And this is where things get interesting because then you have minicamp. Baker doesn't show up to minicamp. Both the Browns and him agree that it'd be better for him not to be there. But as still this offseason has been progressing, the Browns don't really know if Deshaun Watson is going to play for them in 2022. They don't know if he's going to get a season-long suspension, a 6-game suspension, 8-game suspension, 4-game suspension, whatever it is. So there became this whole possibility or thought of like, hey, you still have Baker on your roster. What if Deshaun Watson does get suspended? Could you have Baker fill in for those games that he's out? But it became pretty obvious from when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson that they really didn't want any part of Baker Mayfield anymore, and it's been obvious that Baker doesn't want any part of the Browns. So that was never really going to happen. So the main question became, and has been up to this point, when are the Browns going to trade Baker? Or can they even trade Baker? Because it didn't really look like his trade market was that robust. No one wanted to take on his $18 million cap hit, and most of the teams around the league had their quarterback situation set. So what was going to happen there? And I guess we eventually hit this point where the Panthers and the Seahawks were kind of interested. And this is where we get the trade, and the dysfunction, the saga, has finally come to an end with the Browns and Baker Mayfield, which, like I said, is kind of sad. I wanted to keep this going throughout training camp, throughout preseason, all the way up to the regular season. If Baker Mayfield would have still been on the roster, it would have been really interesting and hysterical to see from afar. But alas, here we are. Baker Mayfield is now a Carolina Panther. What'll be interesting going forward is the whole game of whose fault was all this? You know, like in divorces. Who's going to flourish without the other? Who was holding who back? We saw what happened when Odell left Cleveland. Will it be the same way for Baker with him leaving Cleveland? Or was it Baker's fault the whole time? Now, with Cleveland as a franchise, they don't have the best track record with all this. But this is why I say it was kind of like the perfect match, because both have these dysfunctions about them. Baker, listen, Cleveland isn't looking for another quarterback if you haven't been doing what you've been doing these last however many years. One, subpar quarterback play, or we'll at least say inconsistent quarterback play, and some of this stuff off the field in press conferences, the quotes, making headlines. And then Cleveland, it does kind of feel messed up what you did this offseason of saying, like, hey, Baker, we're behind you. You're our franchise QB going forward. And then you turn around and trade for Deshaun Watson, a dude that you don't even know is going to play in 2022. So why did it have to end? Cleveland and Baker, they were just meant for each other. But let's get to the actual trade. Baker to the Panthers for a conditional 5th rounder that could move up to a 4th rounder depending on Baker's playing time. The Panthers will take care of almost $5 million of Baker's salary, where the Browns will pay around $10.5. Baker will also take a $3.5 million pay cut that will be transferred into incentives. So in my opinion, both sides got what they wanted. For the Browns, you're paying less of Baker Mayfield's salary and his cap hit. Anything less than that 18.5 or 18 whatever million it was going to be a plus for you, because Baker isn't even going to be playing for your team in 2022. Now for the Panthers, you got a potential starting quarterback for your team on the cheap, both in compensation and what you're going to be paying him. The compensation, 4th or 5th round pick, that's nothing. And also the almost $5 million in salary, that's nothing as well. So that doesn't really hurt to take a flyer on him, and you're not committed to him long term because it's still only a 1-year deal. So yeah, I don't think there's really too much else to this trade. Both teams low-key got what they wanted. I mean, the deal made headlines because Baker Mayfield's involved and it's July, but I don't think there's like too much to this. I'm assuming it'll be a competition in Carolina between Mayfield and Darnold, even though I think Baker is the better quarterback between the two and will win the starting gig. And this could actually be good for him in a weird way. Even though he had a good situation in Cleveland, it still could be a good situation for him with the Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, if he could stay healthy, could be a little safety valve for him. They got a couple good receivers, and Matt Rule is an offensive-minded coach. And the thing with Rule is, low-key, Baker Mayfield might be the best quarterback he's had down in Carolina. Now, I don't know if that's saying too much, but if you're in his shoes, he's probably thinking, listen, Baker's available. He's probably better than Darnold. He is better than Darnold. This will be my last-ditch effort with the Panthers. So why the fuck not roll the dice with Baker? Now, I don't think this move gets them into the playoffs or anything, but let's think. What would be a success for the Panthers? I'm saying if they go like 500, well, I guess not 500. It'd be like 8-8, something like that. And if they're somehow in the conversation those last 3 or 4 weeks of the season for the last wild card spot, I think that would be a positive sign for both Matt Rule, the Panthers, and Baker. Because if you're Matt Rule, you're saying, hey, let me parlay some of this success going into next season. Give me another chance. We're heading in the right direction. For Baker, all you got to do is just put up decent stats, because no one's really expecting that much from the Panthers from a team winning standpoint. Just put up good stats, show that you could still start, lead a team, keep a team relevant, and hey, you might get some looks from teams around the league, but also maybe you land a little multi-year contract with the Panthers. So if they could just somehow stay relevant, be an interesting / exciting team, not necessarily a winning team, I think that would be good for the Panthers for 2022 and good for Baker Mayfield. But that is it for this edition of Big Deke News. Let me know what you guys think of the Baker Mayfield trade. How do you think Baker will do in Carolina? Who won the trade? Will Baker beat out Sam Darnold? Etc., etc. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Peace.